Items. They are one of the most important aspects of any Pokemon game, as without them, it would be near impossible to complete the main storyline. But today, my goal isn't just to defeat the champion. In this video, I'll be attempting to collect every item in Pokemon Emerald. Why am I doing this, you might be wondering? Well, I think it's just a fun and different way to play through this classic Pokemon game. Now before we dive into this scavenger hunt, I need to make some exceptions. I'm not going to include any event items like the Eon ticket, or items that must be traded over from Fire Red and Leaf Green, like Moo Moo Milk, on this list. However, everything from key items to healing items and even TMs are going to be included in my search, which brings the total amount of items to 248, if I counted correctly. Anyways, without further ado, let's find out how easy it is to collect every item in Pokemon Emerald. My plan for this challenge is to play through the entire game normally, while picking up every item I can get along the way. Afterwards, I'll backtrack in the game in order to grab the more difficult and tedious items. So, I hopped out the back of a moving truck, set my clock to the right time, and chose Treecko as my starter, just because I haven't used him in a while. I nicknamed him Tarzan before picking up the very first item on this quest, which was the potion in our PC. The rest of this tutorial portion of the game included a rival battle and 5 Pokeballs that we got from May. By the way, I'm not counting the Pokédex as an item, since it doesn't technically go into our bag. Moving on to Route 102, I gathered some Oran and Pekka berries, which are the first of many berries that I'll gather in this playthrough. After showing Wally how to catch Pokemon, even though literal preschoolers know how to do it, I bought a few things at the Pokemart in Petalburg City. This included antidotes, paralyze heals, awakenings, and an escape rope, bringing the total count to 8. Route 104 featured the first hidden item in this heart scale, and I realized that it might get annoying to hunt down all of these hidden items, since Bulbapedia doesn't always give a good description of where they're at. Anyways, I caught a Slakoth that I named DK, since I've always wanted to use this evolutionary line. The more important things in this area, though, are the items that I collected, beginning with the Great Ball from the Devon Worker and the Ether towards the end of the forest. On the other side, I received the TM for Bullet Seed, 2 Cherry Berries, a Super Potion, the Wailmer Pail, and finally a Persum, Leppa, and a Chesto Berry, boosting the item counter to 18. In Rustboro City, there were a few more items waiting to be grabbed, including an X-Defend, a Premier Ball, the Quick Claw, and the HM for Cut. I then realized that I didn't add HMs to the 248 total, so I guess we're actually collecting 256 items in this game. My bad. Anyways, defeating Roxanne gave us access to the TM for Rock Tomb. Northeast of the city, I fought some trainers and nabbed a Repel, X-Special, Pineapple Berry, and the Devon goods from the Team Aqua Thief. As a reward, we were given a letter that's supposed to be delivered to Steven Stone. On my way, I took on May for the second time, and then I totally forgot about the items in Pokemarts, as buying a few items will be much easier than hunting them down across the region. Thanks to these convenient shops, I bought an X-Speed and X-Attack in Rustboro, as well as an Orange Mail in Petalburg. In between the two towns, I collected an X-Accuracy, Tiny Mushroom, and the Miracle Seed. Mr. Briny and his boy Pico were then nice enough to take us to Dewford Town, where before I gave the letter to Steven, I picked up some nice items like the Silk Scarf, Old Rod, a Stardust, the HM4 Flash, an Everstone, and eventually the TM4 Steelwing. The last collectible in this section came from beating Brawly, as he handed us TM08 Bulk Up. With the letter delivered to Steven, I went back to Rustboro City, where the Devon president gave us the EXP share, before I made my way to Route 109. I found a hidden revive, while this little tuber girl gave us the soft sand, and this guy rewarded me with soda pop after defeating some trainers in the restaurant. There wasn't much I could do in Slateport City, as I only obtained the powder jar and the TMs for Torment and Thief. However, this is definitely not the last time we'll be coming here. It's also worth noting that I could have gotten a full heal by winning 3 consecutive battles in the battle tent, but you can literally find one on the next route anyways. Speaking of Route 110, I picked up a dire hit and full heal before struggling in a battle against May, in which we got the item finder for winning. After that, I still had to grab an elixir and some Nanab berries. Oh, and I also got a PP up and guard spec on Route 103 before entering Mauville City. At this point, I backtracked and bought a harbor mail in Slateport City so that I could trade it for the coin case. We then received the HM4 Rock Smash, as well as the Mach Bike. And fun fact, there actually is a way for you to get both bikes at the same time in Pokemon Emerald. After completely ruining Wally's hopes and dreams, I uprooted some Wapair berries on Route 117 before buying a Nest Ball and getting the TM for Attract in Verdanturf Town. Now that those optional areas were out of the way, it was time for the third gym, which I'm not gonna lie was pretty tough, but eventually we defeated Watson and got TM34 Shockwave. Now that I owned the Dynamo badge, I took a detour to some earlier areas of the game, where I scooped up the black glasses, an HP up, a max ether, and the HM for strength around the Rusturf tunnel. I then got a repeat ball from one of the Devon workers, and the white herb from a lady back on Route 104, increasing the item counter to 72. Surprisingly, the long stretch from Route 111 through 112 didn't feature many new items. All I had to do was beat the Winstraight family for the Mako brace, and snatch some Rost and Raspberries, as well as the TM for Secret Power. Route 113 was an interesting one, as it featured a new concept. First of all though, I gathered the new items in the area, like a Nugget, Super Repel, Suit Sack, the TM for Double Team, and a Hyper Potion. Now that we have the Suit Sack, I can run around in the grass on this route in order to collect ashes, which we can give to the man in the house in order to receive the different colored flutes. However, I sort of underestimated how tedious this would be, as some of the flutes require you to take 1,000 steps. Not to mention, I need to keep spending money on repels to speed up the process. So I received the blue and yellow flute, but I decided to hold off on the rest until I have more Pokédollars. On our way up to Meteor Falls, I found the TMs for Dig and Roar, an energy powder, a Carbos, and a protein. We then met with Team Aqua and Magma, before grabbing a Moonstone and some Bluckberries on the elevated part of Route 115. After defeating Maxie, who was tougher than I remember, we stole the meteorite before heading down to Lawridge Town. Not only did this area sell heal powders, energy roots, and revival herbs, but I also got the charcoal from this old man, the overheat TM from beating Flannery, and the Go Goggles from our rival. I was able to trade the meteorite to Professor Cosmo back in Fall Arbor Town, and in return we got the TM for Return, The 4th badge allows you to use strength outside of battle, so I went back in the fiery path and picked up the TM for Toxic and a Firestone. Before heading all the way back to Petalburg City, I stopped by the desert section of Route 111, where I snagged a rare candy, the Sandstorm TM, and the Claw Fossil. Now, similarly to the bikes in this game, there is also a way to obtain both fossils, which is pretty neat. The last 2 items in this section included the TM for Facade from our dad, and the HM for Surf from one of Wally's relatives. And as you can tell, we are now in triple digits in terms of the item counter. Having access to Surf allowed us to check out some optional areas, which rewarded us with new items, beginning with a Max Revive, Amulet Coin, Kelpsy Berry, the TM for Focus Punch, an Iron, Big Pearl, the TM for Sludge Bomb, Star Piece, Dive Ball, Storage Key, and the TM for Ice Beam, bringing the total to 117. In the Underground Mauville mission, I received the Basement Key, an Ultra Ball, Thunderstone, and the Thunderbolt TM. Getting on with the game in Route 118, I got the Good Rod and some Citrus Berries, as well as some Greppa, Pomegg, and Qualot Berries in a small section of Route 123. By speaking to the Berry Master, we got a Magasta Berry, and by telling his wife the phrase, "Great Battle," she gave us a Spellon Berry. Despite Route 119's lengthiness, the only items I needed were a Calcium, Leafstone, the HM for Fly from May, and the Mystic Water that the Static Castform was holding. Fortree City only offered the TM for Hidden Power and Wood Mail, so Steven handed us the Devon Scope, which I used to access Winona's Gym, where we got TM 40 Aerial Ace after our victory. The trek south to Lily Cove City had us collecting the Sunny Day TM, some Spear Berries, and a Figgy Berry. Mount Pyre was home to plenty of new items, including the Cleanse Tag, Sea Incense, Lax Incense, TMs for Shadow Ball and Skill Swap, a Max Potion, and the Magma Emblem. Before using that key item at the Jagged Pass, I showed this lady on Route 123 my Sceptile, so she gave us TM19 Giga Drain. The Team Magma base ironically had a lot of helpful items for us, with the new ones being a Full Restore, Max Elixir, and PP Max. Lily Cove City only offered the Pokeblock case, a Max Repel, and the rest to TM. However, after defeating May for the final time, we gained access to the department store, where I spent a good chunk of my money to purchase the TMs containing Protect, Safeguard, Reflect, Light Screen, Fire Blast, Thunder, Blizzard, and Hyper Beam. At the very top, I also bought a fresh water and a lemonade from the vending machine. I only had to grab the Master Ball in the Aqua Hideout before heading out onto Route 124. Now, what's nice about these ocean routes is that there's not much land, meaning there aren't too many items scattered about. However, once we receive Dive, I will have to go underwater in order to pick up a few things. Funny enough, every item in Moss Deep City was new and ready to be obtained. So I made my way around town while receiving the King's Rock, a Netball, Sunstone, Mental Herb from the side quest between Fortree and Moss Deep, the Super Rod, and TM04 Calm Mind after defeating Tate and Liza. Steven saw our shiny new badge, so he decided to give us the HM for Dive. I then made my way to the Shoal Cave, and because it was at low tide, I could only find shoal salts, meaning I'll have to come back here later in order to get shoal shells and the shell bell. However, the Focus Band, Nevermelt Ice, and TM for Hail were also available here. By the way, I caught a Spiel, And I know I haven't been updating you guys on the team or anything too much, but just know that this is the final member. Now that we can use dive outside of battle, I scavenged around Route 124 for a green and red shard, because that's all I could find right now. I also backtracked to the abandoned ship, and after using dive to access another section of the boat, I got a water stone, room keys 1, 4, 6, and 2. Yes, these all count as separate items. TM18 Rain Dance, a luxury ball, and the scanner, which I traded to Captain Stern and chose the deep sea scale as my reward. And unfortunately, you cannot obtain the other evolutionary item that you didn't choose. Apparently, I became smarter after checking out the abandoned ship, because I was able to find a blue and a yellow shard back on Route 124. The water routes leading to the seafloor cavern didn't offer anything new, so I dove down to find Team Aqua. While in their little hideout, I collected the handy TM for Earthquake. With Archie defeated, I continued my journey to Pacificlog Town, and this is probably a good time to mention that I won't be getting the Lychee Berry, because if I tried to, then this video would never go up. A man in Pacificlog Town will give you the TM for Frustration if your Pokemon has a low enough happiness. But even the Pokemon in the PC that I haven't used much still had decent happiness, so I'll have to approach this a different way. For now, I woke up Rayquaza, who had to quiet down the kids, before seeing what Sootopolis City had in store. Because of our efforts, Wallace handed us the HM for Waterfall, and this random black belt gave us the TM for Brick Break. After beating Juan for the final gym badge, I acquired a TM03 Water Pulse, a Shadow Mail from the Pokemart, and a Hondu and Iapa Berry from this random lady. Yeah, I totally pronounced that wrong. Alright, so we can now head to Victory Road, but first I went back to the Shoal Cave, since it was now high tide, so I found 4 shoal shells, in which this old man combined with my 4 shoal salts to make the shell bell. One place we could check out now that we have the ability to use Waterfall was Meteor Falls, where I grabbed the TMs for Irontail and a Dragonclaw. The only significant things in Victory Road were to beat up Wally and send him home crying, and to blindly run around in the dark until I found the TM containing Psychic. After all that, we challenged the Elite Four and Champion, and after struggling through just a few of the fights, we became the new champion of the Hoenn region. Even though we've defeated the champion, the challenge still isn't over. As you can tell from the counter, we still have plenty of items to collect. A lot of the remaining ones take a while to get, or are just very random. Anyways, I began the postgame by receiving the SS ticket from Norman, who was at his house for once. I then flew over to Fall Arbor Town, where the Desert Underpass is located. This maze-like cave was bigger than I thought, but eventually I ran into the fossil that we didn't choose earlier. Back in the Berry Master's house, I said the phrase "challenge contest," which was good enough for the old lady, as she handed me a Pamtra berry. The next order of business was to venture inside the Safari Zone, where TM22 Solar Beam was hiding. Also, because you own Safari Balls temporarily in here, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I have obtained those as well. It was now time to hop on the SS Tidal, which housed the TM for Snatch, as well as the leftovers. This boat docked at the Battle Frontier, and for now, I only grabbed the Frontier Pass, but trust me, we'll be spending a lot of time here very soon. I quickly realized that randomly going around the region probably isn't the most efficient way to gather the rest of the items. So I decided to split the remaining items into categories and try to cover one at a time. I began with the ones in the trick house, including a timer ball, hardstone, smoke ball, TM for taunt, glitter mail, magnet, tropic mail, and bead mail. The next group of items was a small one, as I had to rematch a few trainers in order to receive a Dragon Fang, Black Belt, and Silver Powder. I say receive, but really I taught Thief to my Sableye and stole each of the items from specific trainers during the 5th rematch with them. I then ended off the day of hunting by purchasing TM35 Flamethrower from the Game Corner. Category number 3 featured the different colored flutes from the man on Route 113. Since I already got the blue and yellow flutes earlier, it really didn't take long to gather enough ash for the red, white, and black flute. The first tedious set of items were the ones that I needed to grab off of wild Pokemon. I once again used a Sableye to do this, but for all of these held items, not only do you have to encounter the correct Pokemon, but each of them only has a 5% chance to hold the item that I need. It's safe to say this took a while, but eventually I nabbed the Dragon Scale off of Bagon and Metal Coat from Magnemite. Now unfortunately, I somehow lost the footage for the rest of these collectibles, but I promise, I still got the Light Ball, Poison Barb, Sharp Beak, Spell Tag, and Twisted Spoon. Look, here's proof of me with the Twisted Spoon in my bag. By the way, the Light Ball and Sharp Beak were much harder to get because I had to catch a bunch of wild Doduo and Pikachu in the Safari Zone and just hope that one of them was holding the item. The last TM I needed to obtain was Frustration from that guy back in Pacifidlog Town. This was relatively easy to do, as I caught an Aeron, who has one of the lower base happiness stats in this game, purposely let it die a bunch, and revived it with revival herbs. By then, the man could tell that Aeron hated me, so I received the final TM. Afterwards, it was time to tackle the different colored scarves. Each scarf requires any of a Pokemon's contest stat to be at 200 or higher. In order to increase those stats, you must feed your Pokemon Pokeblocks. And in order to make Pokeblocks, you need to throw berries in these little machines and play this little minigame with NPCs. Honestly, this was a big learning process for me, as I've never done this before, and it's one of the reasons why this video took so long to make. After hours of attempting to max out some of my Pokemon's contest stats, I was rewarded with the blue, green, pink, red, and yellow scarf. Another reason for why this video took a long time to be uploaded was due to the items in the Battle Frontier. The Choice Band, Scope Lens, and Bright Powder all cost 64 battle points, which can only be earned by participating in the different battle buildings located in the Battle Frontier. Eventually, though, I earned enough points to buy the 3 items. I also somehow forgot about the Metal Powder, so I backtracked to the Desert Underpass and snagged one off of a Ditto. At this point, I was basically on the home stretch. By changing the clock on my computer a couple of times and saying 2 more phrases to the Berry Master's wife, I easily got a Nomel, Watmel, Baloo, Rabuda, Corn, and Tomato Berry. You might have been wondering why I still hadn't got the other bike yet, and that's because the method for getting it wasn't working for me. According to the research I did, there's supposed to be a Hex Maniac on Route 111 and a Bird Keeper on Route 119, and after talking to them, Rydell will give you the second bike. But when I went to those locations, they weren't in those spots. Anyways, I'm still going to count me getting the Acro bike, since technically I did receive both bikes,
just not at the same time. Alright, so you'll probably notice that I'm still missing a few things. However, it seems that I didn't do enough research because the remaining items are actually unavailable to me. For instance, the Lumberry is only held by Mew, the Wiki, Mago, and Aguavberry require my trainer ID to be different than what it is. The Duranberry can only be given by the Berry Master's wife after seeing Latios, which I would need the Eon ticket for. And last but not least, Berry Juice is found on Wild Shuckle, but Shuckle is an event Pokemon that is only found in the Altering Cave. This means, as long as I counted correctly, which I probably didn't, that I have collected every item in Pokemon Emerald. Well, that was much harder than I thought it would be. I apologize for not uploading a video in the past couple of weeks, but as I said before, this video took up almost all of my time. And I know I probably didn't do this in the most efficient or perfect way, but it was my first time doing a challenge like this, so cut me some slack. Despite all of that though, I had a ton of fun playing through Pokemon Emerald in such a unique way. I'm not sure if I'll do this type of video for the other Pokemon games, since it took so long to make, but if you guys want to see it, then I'll be sure to do it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, deuces!